Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the number one reason why incarnation happens here on Earth, and also addressing the nature of ghosts and spirits, because they do tie in together with each other. There is really only a single reason why we are here on this Earth. Not because it's beautiful, it is a beautiful world, not because of its vast diversity of life, that too is also very beautiful. We can consider ourselves very fortunate to being on a world that is this beautiful, that is this diverse pertaining to life and ecosystems and everything. That's almost like us being privileged, being spoiled in a way. But that's not the reason. There's one reason, and that reason is karma. That's why you're here. But why is that? When I talk about karma, as I've talked about karma in the past, what is the definition of karma? Well, it relates to action. Karma is action, right? But actions themselves, like I said, have no particular fixed absolution to themselves. Actions themselves are diverse. They can range from everything. We can feel really, really good about an action that we have performed. We make somebody else feel really amazing about an action that we have done for them. Maybe we're giving them a blessing. Maybe we're taking them in, we're giving them a warm meal, right? These are wonderful traits of karma. But then there's the traits of karma that can represent a splintering, a fracture, a fragmentation of your soul, quite literally. It's like looking at the nature of reality as the walls of the ether, and you're splattering these traits of karmic traumas all over these walls. And that is what we could refer to as soul apparition attachments, or soul apparition, I just had the word, soul apparition residue, that's it. So soul apparition residue, let's call it that, SAR. Having soul apparition residue. Now, when you look at the Western world, when you look at Hollywood and entertainment, they will tell you that that soul apparition residue are ghosts and are spirits. There really is no such thing. There really is no such thing as a ghost or wandering soul or anything of that nature. It doesn't work that way. We have to look at this much more into the nature of metaphysical science. We need to look at this in the ancient science. We need to look at this in the ancient traditions, because this is even something I've talked to ANOINT about, right? And even if you look into a lot of the indigenous people, if you start looking into medicine people, if you start looking into the wise sages, into the Vedic understanding of the soul, when you start looking into all this ancient metaphysics, none of them agree about there being ghosts or spirits. That is a Hollywood invention. That is an entertainment-based invention. Of course, the people who are into the woo-woo paranormal will probably get all pissy about that, and saying, how could you say that, right? There are ghosts. We go in there, we have EMF detectors, we have all this. Well, it's not to say that you're not detecting phenomena, but you don't even know what that phenomena is. You immediately think it's ghosts or spirits. There's no such thing. What you're looking at is that residue, as I talk about, right? Even the medicine people refer to it as soul shards, shards of the soul that happen in heavy emotional attachment, trauma-based situations. It can come through also, you could say, multi-dimensional facets as well too, because you also have beings that transmigrate themselves in between dimensions, and you can have imprints of them all together as well. It doesn't always relate to human. It can relate to all different forms of life. But nonetheless, all of those particular type of apparitions that we see represent that of imprints, right? That is that soul apparition residue. So again, it's kind of like looking at our own intestines, where we have lining, right? And of course, when there's bacterial problems, that bacteria can stick to the lining of the intestines. Well, that's basically what's happening here on Earth. It's the lining of the Earth that is getting laced with this bacteria. And this bacteria would represent traumas, emotional attachments, belief systems, right? Anything that goes into the heavy, polarized extremes of a soul prior to them leaving their body. remains as residue within the environment. It can attach to people, it can attach to locations, it can attach to things, right? And its surrounding events. So basically, as I've talked about, some people talk about entity attachments. It's not really entity attachments, right? They are from entities, but they're not quote unquote entity attachments. It's residue, right? It's, again, kind of like the etheric bacteria of ourselves. Because as we leave our physical body, the nature of ourselves is to return to the oversoul. That's how it works. As I've talked about, you have the two facets of the soul. You have the oversoul, and you have kind of what you would say like an entity soul or personality soul in that way. The personality soul, when it is finished with life, it goes through that tunnel, it goes to the hyperboloid, and it returns back into the source. It returns back into its own oversoul. That's science. That's metaphysics. Okay, that's not woo-woo paranormal BS garbage. Okay, that's not woo-woo new age nonsense. That's the metaphysics of how it works, right? Your soul will always return back to its source. That source is the oversoul, okay? That oversoul is one with the source, and that oversoul is one with the universe and one with God, etc. But that's how it works. But aspects of yourself get trapped, okay? So like I said, where there's heavy traumas, there's heavy emotional attachments, there's heavy burdens, right? Our partner left us. We feel like we're going to lose our home. We feel like we haven't been able to secure our business, to get all of our finances in check. Our daughter doesn't love us. Our grandchildren don't love us. I lost my job, whatever it may be. All of these things that basically represent these shards. This soul apparition residue clings to the karmic walls of the earth. And then getting back into the point about why we incarnate here. Because of that karma, because of that residue. It is not the main reason, so to speak, that this is a school. I mean, it is, but that's not the reason why you're here, okay? You're looking at trillions of schools out there, okay? Quadrillions of schools. I mean, a number I can't even really state, right? You have quadrillions and quintillions of schools out there. That's not why you're here, okay? You are here because of your karma. That's it. There's no other reason. Because when you are able to completely unify yourself, bringing all of those shards back into yourself, just like what, again, the medicine people do, is they help with soul retrieval, right? They help you to regain all of those shards, bringing them back into you and you aligning to unity consciousness so that you do not have to come back here again, right? You come back because there's too many shards. There's too much residue. I said, sorry, you got to do it. There's some things in the subtle body that we're able to reintegrate into ourselves. Some things can be done. This is what we call the after the physical life work that we do. Some things can be reintegrated. Not all, though. Okay. If there's too much stuff, it's kind of like a meter. It's like a barometer. It's like, okay, hang on. You got way too many shards back there on the earth. You need to go back. You got to clean that up, right? We can do some work right now, but there's just too much. You have to go back to the scene of the crime and you need to clean it up. You have way too much karmic residue that's contained on the earth. It's in people, it's in locations, it's in animals, it's in nature, right? It's part of these events that you basically have this multi-dimensional residue that is just splattered all over the place. And that is what people believe ghosts are. It was even H.P. Blavatsky, Madame Blavatsky, that also said the exact same thing I'm saying right now. She did not believe in any form of ghosts, okay? When we look at Rudolf Steiner, looking at Rosicrucianism, he never believed in ghosts. When we look at Edgar Cayce, he also did not believe in the idea of ghosts, of the idea of earthbound spirits in that way. That it too represents the idea of karmic residue, right? So what I'm telling you is not new. It's just what more of the metaphysicians are telling you, and that's my nature. I'm a metaphysician, okay? I'm telling you more about the true science of things. I'm not telling you about woo-woo, paranormal, entertainment, Hollywood, ghost, spirit, stupidness, right? Because that's what it is. And no offense to these paranormal people, but they're chasing ghosts. There you go. They're looking for ghosts, but they're chasing ghosts, and they're not finding ghosts. You're looking at that soul residue. You're looking at that apparition residue. You're looking at that etheric bacteria that is lining around the walls of the earth, in people, in places, in animals, in nature, etc. And it continues to do that because of our disharmony with ourselves, right? So this is why I am so very, very adamant and reminding everybody about using something like the trauma transcendence technique. Because you want to take care of these matters when you're alive, not when you're dead, okay? You are not going to have the impact. I'm sorry, you're just not going to have the lens. You're not going to have the microscope. This physical body is the microscope. It's like trying to look at microscopic bacteria without using a microscope. You're just going to have a hell of a time, right? Maybe you have some natural gift to go within and look at the bacteria without using a microscope. Okay, good on you. But you're not going to get a lot of work done. See, even the car agrees with me. You're not going to get a lot of work done if you do not have that particular microscope altogether, right? You need to have that particular microscope. You need to have that viewpoint. And if you don't have that viewpoint, then like I said, you're going to have the toughest time in trying to feel like you can free yourself from the earth plane. Because the earth plane is where your damage is. That's damage control, okay? If I don't take care of that damage control, then I'm not going to be able to transcend the earth plane. I'm still attached to it. And it's not just the idea of thinking like these things don't matter. If they didn't matter to you, you'd be able to heal them. These traumas mean a big deal to you. And you feel that compulsion to go back. I gotta go back. I gotta take care of my family. I gotta take care of my finances. I gotta take care of this. I gotta be this rich person again. I gotta have more sex. I gotta have this, right? It's not about talking to a person as if they feel they can let go of these traumas. They're still attached, and they're basically the first one that wants to just reel themselves back in and reincarnate once again. Their karma is what's causing that. And again, they're not wandering around the earth plane like a ghost. It doesn't work that way, okay? You have to understand yourself to be the soul. And to understand yourself as the soul is to look at yourself in omnipresence, omniscience, omnipotence. But the soul knows exactly when many of its fractures, fragmentations are there, and it will naturally want to gravitate to remagnetize those forms of apparition residue back into itself. That's what it's designed to do. The ancients knew this. The indigenous people know this. The metaphysicians know this. What I'm teaching you guys is not gobbledygook. It's the truth of things. It is better for you to try your best to swallow down a very bitter truth pill than try to be poisoned by the sweetness of heavy, convenient lies. I want you to remember that, because what I'm giving you guys is the bitter truth pill. I know a lot of us think that ghosts are what's here, and no, you've never witnessed a ghost. Those apparitions are residues. Those are after effects. That's the etheric bacteria from one who is greatly suffering, going through heavy traumas, heavy belief cycles, and just spewing it everywhere, and leaving the world without being able to resolve those tendencies, not resolving their traumas. And then they have to come back, and they got to do it again. They got to come back, and you got to do it again, because you cannot leave the earth plane if too much of you is fractured. If you're too fragmented, if you're just scattered about the earth plane, how do you expect to leave it? You can't. You've left so much of yourself on that planet. You got to get back there. You got to clean it up. And you have the opportunity to do it right here, right now, as a living being. Not feeling that, oh, just I'll croak, I'll kick the bucket, and then I'll take care of it when I'm dead. Well, you maybe get 10, 15, 20% of it, if you're lucky. Doing it in the subtle bodies. The subtle bodies are very, very different. It's not the magnoscope. It's not the microscope that you have here in a physical body. This is the advantage You have a physical advantage. You have a concentrated advantage by being here. That's what incarnation is about. That's why everything is so physical, because it's you under the microscope. It's you actually looking at this bacteria and starting to clean it up. Whereas you're looking at it without a microscope, it's going to be a lot more challenging. So, very important. If you truly want to get so much out of the earth plane itself, you want to look into the nature of your karma. You want to make sure that whatever is lingering, so that it does not stay lingering, does not stay as attachments in somebody else's stomach, does not stay attachments in the husk of a tree, does not stay an attachment inside a dog's brain, whatever it may be, because that's basically what happens. It's like looking at all of this bacterial excrement that is attaching to people, attaching to animals, attaching to trees, because you weren't able to resolve your traumas. And that's what you're here to do. It's a beautiful world. We can learn a lot while we're here. That's why I said this is why we're spoiled. You could not ask for a better world to come to resolve your karma, because you have generations and generations and generations of karma. That's why we go to certain places. That's why we meet certain people synchronistically. And then we have a profound experience. We have an expansive experience. That's the idea of these shards coming back to you. Your clarity, your realization are those shards coming back, saying something as much as an inner self prayer to yourself, an inner self blessing, performing offerings, right? All of these things also help. Working with your trauma, surrendering to it, is by far one of the most profound things you can do, is working with the power of surrender. It's exactly what the masters have said for thousands of years. Please take this into consideration. Watch this video again if you need to. Pass it on to other people. This is very important. You are here on the earth because of karma, and it is not about ghosts and spirits. It is about you recollecting your soul apparition residue, your shards. Bring it back to yourself so that you can leave this world a whole being. Thanks so much for watching. I'll speak to you again in the next video. Take care. Namaskar.
Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. So many voices, so many interpretations.